I used to spend my days watching people blow cash in 1 second flat, money that took me a full, back-breaking hour to earn, $2 an hour. That was my reality. I just stand there, invisible to them, swallowing my pride and watching them spend without a second thought. Every single night I'd lie awake asking myself the same question: how the hell are they doing this? Same city, same streets, same world. But somehow they were living in a completely different financial universe while walking the exact same sidewalks as me. Nobody, not one teacher, not YouTube, not TikTok, not my parents, ever pulled me aside to explain how any of it actually worked. I had to scratch and claw my way through months, maybe years of darkness, until I finally figured it out and became who I am today, only Onman. And honestly, once I got there, the answer wasn't some complex formula. It was almost embarrassingly simple. So let me break it down for you the way nobody ever did for me. No jargon, no hype, just a real story about what financial freedom actually looks like, what it demands of you, and why regular people pull it off while high earners often end up broke. Let me show you this through someone I watched for years before I understood what he was doing. His name is Marcus. Marcus wasn't special. No silver spoon, no mentor, no master plan. Just a regular job and a gut feeling that something was seriously wrong with how he was living. He couldn't name it yet. He just knew he was running on a treadmill going nowhere. Every month looked identical. Work hard, get paid, watch the money evaporate. And it wasn't like he was living lavish either. It was death by 1,000 cuts, a fancy coffee here, a streaming subscription he forgot to cancel there, a car payment that felt manageable right up until it didn't. He wasn't technically broke, but he was stuck in quicksand. Meanwhile, he knew guys making way less than him who somehow had more. It made zero sense. One evening, out of pure frustration, he finally sat down with a blank piece of paper and wrote down everything: the brutal, honest truth. Rent, food, the car, nights out, subscriptions he forgotten about, every dollar bleeding out the door. When he added it all up, the damage was $64,000 a year. That's what it actually cost to keep his life running, not what he thought it cost, what it actually cost. Shortly after, someone threw a rule at him he'd never heard before: take your annual expenses and multiply by 25. That's your freedom number, the amount you need invested so the returns cover your life forever. He hesitated, then did the math anyway. $1,600,000. Marcus put the pen down and stared at the ceiling for a long time. 1.6 million. He was pulling in decent money and had maybe 4 grand sitting in savings. Right there is where most people throw their hands up and quit. It just feels too big, too far, too impossible. But instead of asking, how do I save $1.6 million, Marcus shifted the question entirely. He asked something different. How do I build a system that gets me there in the background without me having to white knuckle every dollar? That mental shift changed the trajectory of everything. He started with the biggest bleeding wound: the car. He was shelling out $750 a month for a piece of metal that lost value every single morning he woke up. He ran the numbers on what that cash could actually do if it was working for him instead of disappearing. Then he sold the car, bought a solid pre-owned ride that had already taken its massive depreciation hit, and paid cash. No more monthly payments. Just like that, his overhead dropped hard. He changed how he moved through the grocery store too. One afternoon, he picked up 2 boxes of the exact same product. One had a massive brand logo plastered on the front. One didn't. He flipped them over, read the ingredients, and found they were practically identical. The prices weren't. He put the expensive one back. From that day forward, before buying anything, he had one question: am I paying for the product, or am I funding their marketing budget? 9 times out of 10, it was the marketing. He looked at his living situation and realized he was throwing money into a black hole every month. So he found a place with an extra bedroom and brought in a roommate. That one room covered the vast majority of his rent. He was living practically for free. Same income, just smarter logistics. He even went after his taxes, not because he loved paperwork, but because someone tipped him off that he was probably overpaying the government. He had a small weekend gig fixing things for people. He started treating it like a real business. Suddenly, his internet, his tools, even the corner of his apartment where he worked became legitimate write-offs. He stopped handing money to the IRS that he was allowed to keep. He also found tax-advantaged accounts where his investments could compound completely untouched, and he started maxing those out immediately. He stopped accepting retail prices as gospel too. Called his internet provider, hinted he was thinking of switching. They dropped his rate on the spot. Did the same with his insurance. Same conversation, same result. Went back to a landlord who'd quoted him something and asked point blank, "Is that really the absolute best you can do?" Turns out it wasn't. All it took was one slightly awkward conversation. Then came the moment that hit Marcus harder than any spreadsheet ever could. He was catching up with a close friend, and when money came up, Marcus gave the standard polite answer, "Fine, doing fine." His friend looked him dead in the eye and said something he never forgot. "Fine is not a plan, Marcus. Fine just means things aren't terrible yet." That hit him like a freight train on the drive home. He sat in his car in the parking garage for maybe 20 minutes just staring at the steering wheel. Fine. That word had been his entire financial identity for years. Fine meant he wasn't in crisis. Fine meant he could look people in the eye without shame. But fine also meant he'd stopped fighting, stopped expecting, stopped believing something better was actually available to him. He drove home that night and made a decision he'd been putting off for years. He was done with fine. He audited his week and realized he had way more free time than he thought, just disguised as mindless scrolling and half-watched TV. He took those hours and started scaling his side hustle. No pressure, no big announcement, just relentless consistency. First month brought in an extra $300. He didn't celebrate, he plowed it straight back in. Second month, 600. Third month, 900. He kept his lifestyle completely flat. No upgrades, no lifestyle creep, no treating himself for hitting targets. There were weeks he wanted to quit. He'd be sitting at his kitchen table on a Sunday night, exhausted from his actual job, looking at numbers that felt embarrassingly small, wondering if he was just fooling himself. His friends were out. He could hear them making plans in the group chat. He put his phone face down and kept working, not because he was certain it would pay off, because he'd made a decision and he wasn't going to let one bad week talk him out of it. Month 14, his side income officially passed his day job salary. He sat alone in his apartment that night, staring at the numbers on his screen for a long time. Nobody handed that to him. Nobody showed up with a roadmap. He built it himself, one quiet decision at a time. He put his first real investment in around month 8. Not a lot, just enough to feel real. He remembered checking his account the next morning, half expecting it to be gone. It wasn't. He checked again 3 days later. Still there. A week later, it had moved up slightly. He didn't know why, and it didn't matter. Something clicked that he couldn't fully explain. His money was working while he slept. He hadn't done anything. He just put it somewhere and left it alone. That feeling, small as it was, changed how he thought about everything. That's when the last real piece clicked. The thing nobody had ever explained to him straight. He'd been using money completely wrong his whole adult life. Not because he was careless, because nobody ever told him what money is actually for. Most people use money to survive the month or to buy status on credit. Wealthy people use money to buy more money. Marcus started funneling every spare dollar into low-cost, broad market index funds. Nothing flashy, no crypto hype, no day trading drama, just automation every single month, rain or shine, no matter what the headlines said. He used to think investing was a playground for Wall Street guys with money to burn. Dead wrong. You don't need to be a genius. You don't need a fortune to start. You just need to start and then have the discipline to get out of your own way. He tackled the one silent killer most people ignore until it's way too late: his credit score. He used to think credit scores were something banks cared about, not him. He was wrong about that too. When he went to buy his first investment property, that 3-digit number controlled everything: what rate he'd pay, how much extra he'd hand over across the entire life of the loan. He found out the hard way that two people can walk into the exact same bank with the same income, buy the exact same house, and one walks out paying hundreds of thousands more. Not because they negotiated worse, because of a number on a report most people never even bothered to check. Marcus fixed his, used a card for everyday spending, set it to auto pay in full every month, paid zero interest, and built a clean score over time. The day he closed on that first property, the loan officer told him his rate. He nodded like it was expected. Inside, he was doing the math on what that rate versus a worse one would have cost him over 30 years. The number was staggering. Years of income, gone or saved based entirely on a habit he built by paying off one credit card every single month. Most people walk right past everything Marcus did. They want a cheat code, a lottery ticket, some overnight crypto boom. They don't want to look at their grocery receipts or drive an older car or have an awkward phone call with their internet provider. Marcus stopped looking for shortcuts. He plugged the leaks, built the habits, and let time do the heavy lifting. He wasn't a genius. He wasn't lucky. He didn't win the birth lottery. He just started, and he refused to stop. The only person who was ever going to change Marcus's financial future was Marcus himself. And the only person who can change yours is looking back at you in the mirror. That's where the name comes from. The one is you.